In the Amazon, every edge is a hunting ground, where forest meets river. The rules chain. A jaguar works the boundary. It reads mud like a map. It listens for one mistake. It does not chase for long. It waits, then it commits. Just offshore, a black caiman holds perfectly still. In this water, camouflage is not color, it is patience. One ripple becomes the wrong ripple. The river surges. Then the surface closes again. Deeper in the flooded trees, the forest becomes a maze. And in that maze, speed matters less than control. An anaconda does not pursue. It waits where prey must pass. One strike, one rap, a grip that does not negotiate. When night arrives, the canopy belongs to predators you never hear. An owl drifts through branches on silent wings, measuring distance with sound, closing in before prey even knows it is tracked. Here, survival is not about being the biggest. It is about being perfectly adapted at the exact moment it matters. This is Wild Amazon. Before we go deeper, tell us where you're watching from and which predator you think rules this forest. Jaguar, Caiman, or Anaconda? And if you want more documentaries built on evidence, real field behavior, and calm, cinematic storytelling, subscribe and stay with us. Before we go deeper, here is what you are about to see. 3 arenas, 1 food web, and predators that rule by different laws. On land, the jaguar hunts with short bursts and a crushing bite. In the river, the black caiman turns stillness into a weapon. In flooded corridors, the anaconda relies on control, not speed. And between them, the forest itself changes the rules. With a flood pulse that can raise water by meters, turning dry forest into a submerged city. Stay with this journey to the end, because the final story is not only about predators. It is about what keeps the Amazon functioning, and what happens when that function begins to fail. A world powered by sunlight and water, and shaped by the quiet pressure of predators. To understand the hunters, we have to understand the arena, because the Amazon is not one forest. It is a system, a mosaic of upland rainforest, seasonal floodplains, blackwater rivers stained dark by tannins, whitewater rivers rich with sediment, and tributaries that stitch everything together. From above, it looks endless. From inside, it is always moving. It cycles water into the atmosphere. It stores carbon in wood and soil, and it supports life at a scale humans are still trying to measure. Scientists estimate the Amazon basin stores tens to over 100 billion tons of carbon across vegetation and soils, depending on methods and boundaries. Many summaries discuss totals, roughly in the 90 to 140 billion ton range. When biomass and soils are combined, that matters, because when forest is degraded or burned, carbon returns to the air. But climate is only one side of the story. The other side is pressure, because every animal here is solving a simple equation. Gain energy. Avoid risk. Do not spend more than the forest can pay back. Predators are a part of that equation. They do not just kill. They regulate. They shape movement. They shape behavior. They shape the living architecture of the forest. To see how, we need to think in layers. The Amazon is a vertical world. At ground level, sunlight arrives in fragments. The air is heavy with moisture. Decomposition is constant. Higher up, the understory is crowded with palms and young trees, competing for light. Above that, the canopy forms a roof of leaves, often 30 to 50 meters above the forest floor. This roof is not just scenery. It regulates temperature. It holds humidity. It protects the layers below from extreme heat and drying winds. And it hosts extraordinary biodiversity. Many species spend their entire lives without touching the ground. In this world, the best strategy is not always speed. Sometimes it is efficiency. The sloth is a specialist in energy management. Leaves are low in calories, so the sloth reduces its costs. It moves slowly. It rests often. Its metabolism runs at a low pace. Digestion can take weeks. Slow is not weakness. Slow is a budget. And the sloth's fur can become habitat. Algae and small organisms may grow there, sometimes tinting the coat green, helping the animal blend into the canopy. In the Amazon, camouflage can be alive. Nearby, a toucan moves through branches with ease. That oversized bill is lightweight, built from keratin with internal support structures. Research on toucan physiology suggests the bill can help with heat regulation by controlling blood flow and releasing excess heat. A bird's face becomes a cooling system, and when toucans feed on fruit, they often carry seeds away from parent trees, helping regenerate the forest. In a rainforest, movement is part of the future. Then the canopy starts to speak. Howler monkeys project calls across the treetops. Those calls mark territory, coordinate group movement, and reduce conflict without constant fighting. In dense forest, sound becomes a boundary. Spider monkeys solve distance with motion. Long limbs and a prehensile tail let them travel quickly through the canopy, tracking fruiting trees across wide areas. Together, these animals shape the flow of energy above ground, and predators pay attention to that flow, because where food concentrates, prey gathers. Where prey gathers, hunters listen. At dusk, the canopy changes again. Night does not erase life. It rearranges it. Nocturnal predators rely on low light and sound. Owls are built for this shift. Large eyes gather what little light exists, but hearing may be their sharper tool. Many owls can locate prey by sound alone, using fine differences in timing and direction. Then comes the final advantage: silent flight. Feather structures reduce turbulence and noise, allowing the owl to close in without warning. For prey, the danger is the absence of a signal. One moment still, next moment gone. This is not drama. This is specialization. And specialization is the rule of the Amazon. 3 rules keep returning in every predator's story here. Rule 1. Energy is a budget. If a hunt costs too much, the hunter loses even if it survives. This is why Amazon predators prefer short, decisive tactics. Ambush instead of marathon. Rule 2. Information is everything. In dense forest, vision is limited. So predators hunt with other senses: hearing, vibration, scent, and the reactions of other animals. The forest is full of telltale signals. A sudden stop in birdsong can mean a cat is moving. A burst of alarm calls can reveal a snake's path. A school of fish changing direction can expose a predator below. Rule 3. Boundaries create opportunity. Edges concentrate movement. Riverbanks, fallen logs, narrow channels, clay licks, and fruiting trees. These places pull animals in. Predators learn them like routes on a map. And sometimes the apex predator is not on the ground at all. In parts of the Amazon, the harpy eagle patrols the canopy. It is built for power and precision. Large talons, a heavy body, and wings made for steering through tight spaces. It can take arboreal mammals that few other predators can handle. When a harpy eagle is near, monkeys scan upward more often. Sloths press closer to cover, and the canopy becomes quieter. Not empty, but cautious. Another apex hunter lives in the water's daylight. Giant otters. They hunt in family groups, communicating constantly, coordinating chases through shallow channels and lakes. Group hunting changes the math. A single predator can fail repeatedly. A team can learn, adapt, and pressure prey into mistakes. These hunters remind us that the Amazon is not one story of solitary killers. It is a library of strategies. Ambush, pursuit, teamwork, camouflage, electricity, and sound. And if you want to understand why the Amazon feels mysterious, it is because most of the decisive moments happen fast and out of sight. Predation here is not a spectacle. It is an invisible force that shapes where animals dare to exist. Next, we descend. Down on the forest floor, the Amazon becomes darker, and the smallest creatures begin to dominate. A dead leaf is not waste. It is fuel. Fungi colonize it. Bacteria break it down. Invertebrates chew and shred it. Nutrients return to the soil and back into the roots of living trees. In many tropical forests, nutrients can cycle quickly through biomass, rather than remaining stored in deep soils. That means the Amazon's fertility depends on constant recycling, and some of the most influential recyclers are insects. Leaf-cutter ants march in long line, carrying fresh green fragments. They are not eating the leaves. They are feeding a fungus cultivated underground. The fungus becomes the colony's primary food source. This is agriculture without humans. And the deeper you look, the more the Amazon surprises you. Some ants carry chemical defenses that keep their fungus gardens healthy. Some microbes compete inside the soil like invisible predators, fighting over nutrients, molecule by molecule. Even a single fallen log can become a timeline. First, fungi soften the wood. Then beetles tunnel into it. Then larvae feed and grow. Then birds arrive to hunt the larvae. Then the forest reclaims the log as soil. This is why the Amazon holds so many species. It creates 1,000 small habitats inside one big habitat. And in each one, life is solving the same problem. How to eat, how to avoid being eaten, and how to do it efficiently. A mature colony may contain millions of ants with specialized roles. Workers harvest, soldiers defend, gardeners maintain fungal crops. During heavy rains, colonies can restructure tunnels, build drainage, or relocate fungus to higher chambers. The Amazon forces adaptation at every scale, and then color becomes a warning. Poison dart frogs advertise danger with bright patterns. In many species, toxicity is linked to diet, especially certain ants and arthropods. The frog builds defense from the food web. In the Amazon, what you eat can determine what you become. But the forest floor is not only defended by chemistry, it is also hunted. Small predators work the leaf litter. Spiders, centipedes, snakes, each tuned to a narrow target. This is the foundation of the Amazon's food web, and above it, the apex predators patrol. If the Amazon had a signature predator on land, it would be the jaguar. It is the largest big cat in the Americas, built for ambush in thick cover. In dense forest, long chases are expensive, so the jaguar's body is designed for force. Powerful limbs, thick shoulders, a short burst, then contact. What sets the jaguar apart is its bite. Biomechanical studies and wildlife biology sources consistently describe jaguars as having one of the strongest bite forces among big cats, relative to size. Many accounts describe a killing technique that targets the skull or upper spine, aiming to disrupt the nervous system quickly. That bite expands the jaguar's prey range. Deer, peccaries, capybaras, monkeys, large birds, turtles, and caimans. And unlike many big cats, jaguars are strong swimmers. They hunt along river edges, in swamps, and in flooded forests, where land and water overlap. In some wet environments, jaguars may take aquatic or semi-aquatic prey more often, though proportions vary by region and season. The key point is consistent. The jaguar does not rule one terrain. It rules the boundary. If this science first style is your kind of documentary, tap subscribe. It helps this channel keep making long-form films like this. Field note: if you ever see a jaguar hunt, you may not see the hunt at all. You may only see what happens before it. A sudden silence in birds, a capybara herd lifting heads at the same time, the smallest animals stepping back from the waterline. That is the Amazon's warning system. Predators create signals long before they create contact. And for prey, the smartest move is often not to run. It is to stop, to freeze, to become uninteresting for one more second. And the boundary is where the Amazon becomes intense. Because, in the water, another apex hunter is waiting. The black caiman. Large crocodilians hunt by patience. They hold still. They disappear into the surface. A caiman can look like driftwood until the moment it moves. Along river edges, prey animals come to drink, and that is where ambush pays. Sometimes, the Amazon delivers a rare encounter. Jaguar and caiman in the same sea. Two apex strategies meeting. Land power, water power. Jaguars have been documented taking caimans, especially smaller individuals, using a crushing bite to target the skull. Caimans defend with armor and with the water itself. The outcome depends on size, surprise, and physics. But the larger story is about influence. Where caimans hunt, prey changes its behavior. Where jaguars patrol, prey stays closer to cover, moves in groups, and reduces time at open banks. Predators shape ecosystems, even when they do not strike. And deeper in flooded corridors, another predator hunts without needing speed. The green anaconda. An anaconda is built for control. It waits in water where traction disappears and escape routes narrow. One strike, one wrap, constriction reduces movement and breathing. In flood season, when animals must move through water edges, the anaconda's advantage increases. In the Amazon, habitat can be a weapon. Then, follow the river again. The Amazon system contains rivers with different chemistry. Whitewater rivers carry heavy sediment loads, often originating in the Andes. They can be relatively nutrient-rich. Blackwater rivers are stained dark by tannins from decaying vegetation. They are often more acidic and nutrient-poor, but they support specialized communities adapted to those conditions. Two water types, two different ecological realities, and in both, fish diversity is extraordinary. Many catalogues and summaries discuss 2,000 or more freshwater fish species. Across the basin, though numbers vary with definition and revision, fish are energy, and predators evolve to harvest energy. Some predators hunt by stealth, and hingers dive and strike fish with a sharp thrust, then surface to dry their wings. Other predators hunt by coordination. Piranhas are often misunderstood. Here is the reality that makes them more interesting than the myth. In many cases, the river is not a frenzy. It is an audit. Piranhas test weakness. They exploit injury. They remove what the system can afford to lose. So the real question is not, do piranhas attack? It is, what makes an animal vulnerable in the first place? Many species are opportunistic. They may scavenge. They may target injured prey. Their danger is efficiency, sharp teeth, rapid bites, group behavior that can overwhelm vulnerability. In the river, one mistake can cascade. Then comes a giant, the arapaima, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world, often reported approaching 3 meters in length. What makes the arapaima remarkable is that it can breathe air. It surfaces periodically to take oxygen directly, an advantage in warm, low-oxygen water. This adaptation opens habitats that would be difficult for many large fish, and it reveals a pattern. The Amazon rewards specialization. From here, the landscape changes again, the flood pulse, and in a moment, we enter the most dangerous version of the Amazon. The season when the forest becomes water and every predator gains new routes. In many regions, seasonal rains raise water levels and transform forest into aquatic maze. Fish move into flooded forests to feed and spawn. Birds follow fish and insects. Predators follow movement. Flooding expands habitat, increases connectivity, and reshapes risk. It also forces adaptation. Ant colonies restructure tunnels. Terrestrial animals seek high ground, and predators that can move between land and water gain advantage. This is why the boundary matters. Look closer. Meet the capybara, the largest rodent on Earth, built for semi-aquatic life. Eyes, ears, and nostrils set high on the head, webbed feet from mud and water, a body that can slide into the river in seconds. Capybaras often live in groups. They rely on vigilance. One warning can send the herd underwater together. They survive through strategy, not strength, but they remain prey. For jaguars, for caimans, for anacondas, and still they persist, shaping vegetation along river edges and cycling nutrients through the food web. In the Amazon, even prey can be an engineer. Shift your focus return to the dark water. In some places, visibility is only centimeters. So a predator learns to see with sound. The Amazon River dolphin, often called the Boto, Botos, use echolocation, clicks and echoes that build a 3D map of the world. A flexible neck helps them turn through submerged corridors. A long snout reaches into tight spaces where fish hide. The Boto is surrounded by legends, but the biology is already extraordinary. A mammal navigating a flooded forest by translating sound into space. At this point, the story becomes urgent, because the Amazon's greatest pressure today does not come from predators. It comes from people. Deforestation removes habitat. Fragmentation breaks connectivity. Fire degrades forest edges. Pollution can enter waterways. Climate change increases drought stress in some regions and makes fires more likely during dry years. Across many monitoring programs and scientific summaries, a substantial share of the Amazon has been cleared or degraded. Figures often cited include around 17 to 18% loss. In some assessments, with additional areas affected by degradation, though exact numbers vary with definitions and time windows. Scientists also discuss thresholds. Not a single day of collapse, but progressive shifts. Less rainfall recycling. More tree mortality. Higher fire susceptibility. And conversion of vulnerable areas toward more open vegetation. There is no single switch, but there are warning signs. And there is evidence for what helps. Across multiple studies, indigenous managed territories often show lower deforestation rates than surrounding lands. Where land rights are recognized and enforcement is real, forests are more likely to remain intact. Protection is not a slogan. It is an outcome. In this layer, we widen the lens. The Amazon is still a frontier of discovery. New species are described regularly, especially among insects, plants, fungi, and microorganisms. The paradox is painful. We discover new life, while habitat loss can erase it faster than we can document it. Some species may disappear before they are even named. That is why conservation is not only about what we already know. It is also about what we have not discovered. Meanwhile, return to the predators. Apex predators are not just symbols. They are signals. A jaguar needs prey, cover, territory, and connected habitat. A caiman needs functional aquatic systems. An anaconda needs flooded corridors and prey access. A dolphin needs fish abundance and safe waterways. When apex predators endure, it suggests the web beneath them still holds. When they vanish, it suggests the system is unraveling. And unraveling does not always sound like catastrophe. Sometimes it sounds like silence. In intact forest, you hear layers, insects, birds, primate calls, the hush of moving water, the occasional sign of a large body passing through. In degraded landscapes, complexity can fade. The forest becomes quieter, not peaceful, reduced. The jaguar's presence is a measure of that complexity. Not because the jaguar is the forest, but because the jaguar depends on the forest working. A jaguar at the river's edge is more than an animal. It is the ecosystem expressed through one body, a predator built for thick cover, a swimmer that crosses worlds, a hunter whose presence reshapes behavior. And now, human pressure is reshaping the Amazon faster than selection can respond. The outcome will decide what the next generation inherits. A rainforest that still breathes, still stores carbon, still cycles water, still supports unmatched biodiversity. Or a story about what used to be. If this journey changed the way you see the Amazon, hold on to that, because the Amazon is not far away. Its carbon and water cycles connect to global climate. What happens here does not stay here. The predators are not villains. They are signals. They tell us when the forest is functioning and when it is failing. In the Amazon, the greatest mystery is not whether predators can survive. It is whether we will allow the system they depend on to remain intact. If you want more documentaries built on what we can observe, measure, and learn, subscribe and tell us in the comments. What stayed with you most? The jaguar at the river's edge, the flooded forest turning into a new world, or the realization that the Amazon's future is being decided right now. Further, we go deeper, because the Amazon is not only a place where predators hunt. It is a place where the ground itself once changed the rules. Millions of years ago, South America was reshaped by tectonic forces. The Andes rose, and when mountains rise, rivers do not stay the same. As the uplift continued, drainage patterns shifted. Waters that once flowed in one direction were redirected. Sediments moved, basins filled and drained, and over long time, new habitats formed. This is not one event you can film. It is a slow transformation that builds possibilities. More habitats can mean more niches. More niches can mean more species. And through deep time, the Amazon became one of the richest biological regions on Earth. Today, the basin spans multiple countries and climates, but at ground level, the forest still feels like a single breathing organism. To see why, look at the canopy again. The canopy is not one ceiling. It is thousands of overlapping ceilings. Leaves intercept rainfall, then drip it downward in stages. This slows erosion. It reduces the force of storms, and it controls humidity in the layers below. Sunlight arrives in patches, and those patches determine where life concentrates. In the canopy, plants compete for light in unusual ways. Some grow as epiphytes. They do not root in soil. They anchor to branches and trunks. Orchids, bromeliads, ferns, plants that live in the air. They harvest moisture from rain and mist. They trap debris in their leaves, and they create miniature reservoirs. In some bromeliads, water pools in the leaf base. In that water, insects breed, frogs shelter, microbes feed. A small ecosystem inside a plant. This is why the Amazon is hard to measure, because even a single branch can contain a community. So, watch the birds. Macaws travel in loud pairs or flocks. On certain river cliffs, the forest gathers in daylight. Clay licks natural walls of mineral-rich soil, draw macaws and parrots in noisy clusters. The birds eat clay not as a snack, but as a buffer. It can bind or dilute plant toxins from unripe seeds and fruit, and it adds minerals that are scarce in a fruit-heavy diet. To predators, clay licks are predictable. To birds, they are necessary. To the ecosystem, they are one more example of how nutrition shapes movement, and movement shapes risk. Their color is not carelessness. It is communication. Bright plumage can signal health. It can strengthen pair bonds. and it can help individuals recognize each other across dense green backgrounds. Macaws often nest high, in tree cavities, far from many ground predators. But height is not safety. Snakes climb, monkeys raid nests, and eggs are energy, a target worth stealing. So macaws defend. They call, they mob, they cooperate. Their intelligence is part of their survival. They learn where food appears. They remember routes. They communicate danger. And like toucans, macaws can disperse seeds, helping maintain forest diversity. Then there are the smallest birds, built like engines. Hummingbirds. A hummingbird's life is an energy emergency. It burns fuel constantly. It must feed often, sometimes every few minutes. Their hearts can beat extremely fast during flight. Their muscles are tuned for hovering, and their tongues are specialized to reach nectar deep in flowers. In many forests, hummingbirds are important pollinators, moving pollen between blooms, supporting reproduction of canopy plants. A predator's story depends on this, because if flowers fail, fruit decline. If fruit declines, primates and birds shift, and predators follow that shift. Next, come back to hunting, because the canopy has its own apex predators too. In some parts of the Amazon, harpy eagles patrol the treetops. They are among the largest and most powerful raptors in the rainforest. Their talons can be enormous. Their flight is built for maneuvering between branches, not for soaring over open plain. Harpy eagles hunt arboreal mammals, sloths, monkeys, sometimes large prey for a bird. They rely on surprise and strength, like the jaguar does on the ground, and their presence changes behavior. Monkeys learn to scan the canopy, to alarm call, to move differently when danger is overhead. In the Amazon, threats come from every direction. Then we shift to a different kind of predator, one you rarely see clearly: bats. At night, bats fan out across forest edges and rivers, hunting insects, pollinating flowers, and dispersing seeds. Some bats eat fruit, some eat nectar, some eat insects, and a few specialize in fish or small vertebrates. Bats are not background, they are infrastructure. They can control insect populations. They can pollinate night-blooming plants. They can move seeds to disturbed areas, supporting regeneration. The Amazon is filled with these hidden workers. From here, back to the forest floor, because beneath the canopy, another army moves. Army ants. They do not build permanent nests. They move as living rivers of bodies, sweeping through leaf litter and understory. Their raids flush insects and small animals into the open. And when that happens, other predators gather. Ant-following birds shadow the swarm. They do not eat the ants. They eat what the ants force into motion. This is a key theme of the Amazon. One hunter creates opportunity for another. Predation is networked. Look closer. Zoom out again. Because the Amazon's biggest stage is water. The river is not only a channel, it is a continent-wide conveyor belt. It carries sediments, nutrients, and organic matter. It builds floodplains. It reshapes banks. It creates oxbow lakes. It opens and closes habitats over time. In some areas, turtles gather on sandy shores. They bask to warm themselves. They bask to dry out. and sometimes to reduce parasites. And then a strange interaction appears. Butterflies gather, not to feed on flowers, but to drink tears. Turtle tears contain salts and minerals. Male butterflies can use those minerals to supplement a diet that is otherwise nutrient limited. This behavior is rare, and it shows how tightly connected life is here. Even the moisture from an eye becomes a resource. Shift your focus, return to fish, because fish are not only prey, fish are also predators. Some fish hunt by speed, some by ambush, some by sensory tricks. In dark water, electric fish can generate weak electric fields, detecting objects and movement through distortion. Not all electric fish are large, but their sensory world is advanced. It is another way the Amazon solves invisibility. Then there are fish that breathe air, like arapaima, and also some catfish and other groups, adapted to low oxygen habitats. The Amazon forces physiology to become creative. At this point, we return to the jaguar again, but this time we look at its role as a regulator. In many ecosystems, apex predators can prevent a single prey species from overwhelming plant communities. They do this in two ways: by removing individuals and by changing behavior. If prey animals fear open areas, they spend less time grazing there. If prey animals avoid certain riverbanks, vegetation can recover. Over time, these behavioral shifts can influence plant structure and even nutrient pathways. This is why conservation biologists care about apex predators, not only for the predator itself, but for the system it stabilizes. In this layer, consider the jaguar's territory. A jaguar may travel long distances. It needs corridors. It needs cover. It needs prey density high enough to support it. When forest is fragmented, corridors break, and the jaguar becomes exposed. Exposure increases conflict. Conflict increases mortality, and mortality reduces population resilience. In some areas, jaguars are killed in retaliation for livestock losses. In other areas, jaguars are threatened by habitat loss and prey depletion. The drivers vary, but the pattern is consistent. When habitat quality declines, apex predators are among the first to suffer. Meanwhile, go back into the water. Because the Amazon's aquatic apex predators face their own pressures, caimans can be affected by hunting, habitat degradation, and pollution. Dolphins can be affected by nets and boat strikes. Large fish can be affected by overfishing, especially when reproduction depends on floodplain access. And when aquatic systems are disrupted, the consequences can spread outward into forest systems. Because the Amazon is not land plus water. It is land and water as one machine. Further, listen to the rainy season. In some regions, rainfall can arrive like a wall. Day after day, week after week, rivers rise. Water levels can increase by meters in many floodplain areas, creating vast seasonal wetland. These flooded forests become nurseries. Food becomes abundant. Fish spread out, and predators adjust their strategies. For a jaguar, flood season can change hunting routes. It may use river edges more. It may hunt aquatic prey more often. It may patrol islands of high ground. For a caiman, flood season can increase access to prey, but it can also spread prey out, reducing predictability. For an anaconda, Flood season can expand corridors for ambush, but it can also increase competition with other predators. This is why the Amazon never settles. It pulses. So, consider the dry season. As water drops, animals are compressed. Fish concentrate into channels and pools. Drinking sites become limited. Predators can become more efficient. The same system that expands in flood contracts in drought. This compression can increase encounters, and encounters can become conflict. At the boundary, Jaguar and Caiman may share the same hunting space. In some documented cases, jaguars have attacked caimans at low water, using shallow edges to gain leverage. Again, no myth is needed, only physics and opportunity. Next, we return to the Boto, because its world is shaped by these pulses too. During high water, dolphins can enter flooded forests, hunting fish among submerged trunks. During low water, they may be confined to channels and lakes, where nets and boat traffic can become more dangerous. The Boto's survival is tied to the river's freedom to move. If floodplains are blocked, or if waterways are altered, the Boto loses habitat, and the system loses a predator that helps regulate fish communities. Then, let's talk about what makes the Amazon famous: biodiversity. The Amazon is often described as holding around 10% of known species on Earth. Exact percentages vary with catalog updates and definitions, but the idea is clear. This region holds a disproportionate share of life, and much of that life is still unknown. Every year, new species are described. New frogs, new insects, new plants, new fungi. The forest is not finished being discovered, but discovery does not protect habitat. Protection requires decisions. That brings us back to deforestation. Forest loss can be direct, clear-cutting, burning, conversion to agriculture or pasture. But forest loss can also be indirect. Selective logging, roads, edge drying, small fires that creep and weaken trees. These changes can make forest less resilient. And then, climate change can amplify stress. Warmer temperatures can increase evaporation. In some regions, rainfall patterns may shift. Dry seasons may lengthen. Droughts may become more severe. In a rainforest, drought is not just discomfort. It can be vulnerability. Dry trees burn more easily, and fire, once established, can push forest toward further degradation. This is why scientists warn about feedback loops. Less forest, less moisture recycling, less rainfall, more drying, more fire, less forest. It is not a movie plot. It is a risk pathway, and risks can be reduced. One of the strongest patterns in deforestation data is the effect of governance. Where land rights are clear, where enforcement exists, and where communities have a stake in protection, forest loss can be lower. Indigenous managed territories often show this effect, with lower deforestation rates in many analyses. These lands are not empty. They are lived landscapes, managed by people with long knowledge of the forest. Conservation is not only biology, it is also policy, economics, rights, and enforcement. From here, consider restoration. Reforestation projects can help recover degraded areas, but a restored forest is not instantly the same as an intact forest. Biodiversity can take decades to return. Large trees take time to grow. Soil communities recover slowly. This is why prevention matters. Protecting intact forest is often more effective than trying to rebuild it after loss. Look closer. We return to a simple question. What do apex predators need? They need habitat. They need prey. They need connectivity. They need time. A jaguar needs corridors through forest. A caiman needs functional wetlands and riverbanks. An anaconda needs flooded corridors and cover. A boto needs free-flowing waterways and abundant fish. When these needs are met, predators persist. And when predators persist, the ecosystem often retains its structure. When these needs fail, predators disappear, and the ecosystem can unravel. Sometimes this unraveling is visible. A decline in sightings, a shift in prey behavior, more crop damage as animals move into human spaces. Sometimes it is subtle, a change in seedling survival, a shift in insect abundance, a quieter canopy. But the message is the same. The system is changing. Shift your focus. We return to the emotional core, but we keep it grounded. The Amazon is not valuable only because it is beautiful. It is valuable because it functions. It stores carbon. It moves water. It supports biodiversity. It stabilizes regional climates. And those functions connect to people, both within the basin and far beyond it. So when we talk about protecting the Amazon, we are not only protecting wildlife, we are protecting a life support system. At this point, return to the beginning. A jaguar at the river's edge. That image is not just power, it is dependency. The jaguar depends on forest cover, on prey, on flood cycles, on corridors that allow movement. The caiman depends on clean water and functioning wetlands. The anaconda depends on flooded forest corridors. The dolphin depends on fish abundance and safe waterways. If the Amazon holds, these predators remain, and their presence helps the Amazon hold. If the Amazon breaks, they become ghosts. In this layer, we close the documentary the way Nat Geo would. Not with certainty, with clarity. The Amazon has survived deep time, but modern pressures arrive fast. We can measure forest loss. We can monitor fires. We can track rivers. We can model risk. And we can measure what works. Protected areas, indigenous land rights, sustainable management, enforcement, market changes that reduce incentives for illegal clearing. None of these are simple, but they are real. And each one shifts the trajectory. The Amazon does not need us to be inspired. It needs outcomes. Because inspiration fades, but policy and protection persist. Meanwhile, a final return to the sensory world. Dawn on a riverbank, mist rising, bird calls layered in the canopy. A capybara herd moving with caution. A caiman holding still. A jaguar reading the mud. No speeches, no ceremony. Just the Amazon working. If we allow it. If this documentary left you with a new perspective, share it. Not because comments save forests, but because attention shapes demand, and demand shapes decisions. Tell us what stayed with you, the boundary, the flood pulse, and in a moment, we enter the most dangerous version of the Amazon. The season when the forest becomes water and every predator gains new routes. The silent flight at night. And remember this, in the Amazon, every edge is a hunting ground. But in the modern world, the greatest edge is not between forest and river. It is between an ancient system and the speed of human change. What happens next will be decided by choices, not by myths, by laws and enforcement, by land rights, by supply chains, by what we are willing to protect. Because the Amazon is not only wilderness, it is function. And the predators are not just icons, they are signals. Signals that tell us in measurable ways whether the forest is still whole. And one last thought, not science fiction, but ecology. If humans vanished tomorrow, the Amazon would not become a paradise overnight. It would enter a different phase of recovery and conflict. Roads would crack, fields would shrink back under vines and saplings, fires would fade as ignition sources disappeared. In some places, forests would reconnect over decades. In others, damaged soils and invasive grasses would slow the return. Predators would expand into old corridors. Prey would repopulate former clearings. The river would keep moving sediment, rebuilding banks and islands the way it always has. In time, the evidence of our presence would thin, but the choices we made would remain in the landscape, as scars or as protected strongholds. That is why the Amazon's future is not a mystery to wait for. It is a decision that is already underway. If this film earned your attention, share it with someone who loves real nature stories. Subscribe for more documentaries built on observation, evidence, and the real mechanics of nature. And until the next journey, listen for the quiet. In the Amazon, quiet is never empty. Further, slow down and watch the invisible work. In the damp heat, microbes and fungi break down wood, release nutrients, and keep growth possible in soils that can be heavily leached by rain. Scientists describe thousands of fungal species associated with roots across tropical forests. Not every forest uses the same fungal partners, and not every study finds the same numbers, but the pattern is consistent. Roots and fungi form networks. Those networks help plants access water and minerals. They can increase resilience during stress, and they shape what kinds of trees can thrive in certain soils. This underground partnership is one reason the Amazon can support towering biomass, even where soil nutrients are not evenly distributed. It is also one reason forest loss is more than losing trees. When forest is cleared, the living soil community changes. Heat increases, moisture drops, microbial balance shifts. Recovery becomes harder. So, return to the canopy, because above the fungal network, insects run the daily economy. Many insects are pollinators. Some are decomposers. Some are predators. And many are prey. In the canopy, a single night can involve thousands of feeding events. Moths visit flowers. Beetles chew leaves. Wasps hunt caterpillars. Spiders ambush flies. Geckos hunt moths. Owls hunt geckos. The chain is constant, and each link depends on the link below. Some insects have defenses. Stinging wasps, Chemical sprays, bright, warning colors. Others use mimicry, pretending to be dangerous when they are not. This is evolutionary storytelling, but it is written in outcomes, not intentions. Next, the Amazon has predators that live in groups too. Giant otters. In parts of the basin, giant otters hunt fish cooperatively. They communicate with whistles and calls. They patrol territories along rivers and lakes. And they can be aggressive defenders of pups. Group hunting changes the math. It allows larger prey. It increases success rates. And it adds social complexity to predation. Giant otters are also sensitive to disturbance. They need clean water and fish abundance. They can be affected by habitat loss and human activity. Again, a predator becomes a signal of ecosystem health. Then, meet a predator that turns electricity into a weapon. Electric eels. Despite the name, electric eels are not true eels. They are knifefish relatives. They generate electric fields. Weak discharges help them sense the environment. Strong discharges can stun prey or deter threats. In murky water, electric sensing is an alternative to vision. It is another way the Amazon solves darkness. And then there are quiet dangers in shallow water. Freshwater stingrays. They often rest on river bottoms, covered in sediment. They are not hunting humans, but their barbed tails can injure if stepped on or disturbed. In the Amazon, hazard is often accidental. It is not malice. It is proximity. From here, we return to a phrase humans love. The green lung of the planet. The Amazon does influence carbon and water cycles, but it is not a simple lung. Forests both absorb and release carbon. They store carbon in biomass. They release carbon through respiration and decomposition. The climate impact depends on balance. Intact forests can be long-term carbon stores. Degraded forests can become net sources. This is why numbers are reported as ranges, because the system is large and methods differ. Look closer, consider the future. Some scientists explore questions like tipping points and what could happen if forest loss and warming continue. Models vary, but many highlight the same mechanisms. Less forest cover can mean less moisture recycling. Less moisture recycling can mean less rainfall. Less rainfall can mean more drought stress. More drought stress can mean more fire risk. A feedback loop. But feedback loops can be interrupted. Reducing deforestation reduces drying. Protecting corridors preserves connectivity. Restoring degraded areas can rebuild buffers. Reducing fire ignition sources can prevent spread. Supporting indigenous governance can stabilize land use. These are not slogans. They are levers. Shift your focus. A final predator story to tie the theme together. In some regions, people use the term Black Panther to describe a melanistic jaguar. Melanism is a genetic variation that produces darker pigmentation. In dense forest, dark coats can offer advantages under certain light conditions, especially in shadowed environments. A melanistic jaguar is not a separate species. It is the same apex predator expressed in a different form, and it reminds us of something subtle, even within a species. Variation can be a survival tool. The Amazon does not create one solution. It creates many and tests them across time and habitat. At this point, we return to the main question. What does it mean to protect the Amazon? It means protecting function. The function of a floodplain nursery. The function of a canopy seed disperser. The function of a fungal root partnership. The function of a predator that regulates prey. Because if function survives, life can reorganize around change. If function fails, complexity collapses into simpler systems. And simpler systems support fewer species, store less carbon, and cycle water differently. So when you picture the Amazon, do not picture only trees. Picture flows. Water flow, energy flow, nutrient flow, movement flow, and information flow carried by sound and scent. Predators are experts in that information. They hunt the flow, and that is why they are our guide through the Amazon's mysteries. One more way to understand the Amazon is to follow one full day across its layers. Morning begins with light filtering through mist. Birds call from the canopy. Insects warm up and begin to move. On the ground, leaf litter releases a smell of decay and renewal. As the sun rises, fruit eaters become active. Toucans hop between branches. Monkeys test the day with calls. Hummingbirds visit flowers like sparks of motion. In the understory, butterflies gather where minerals seep from soil. Some sip from wet ground, collecting salts that are rare in their diet. Along river edges, herbivores feed quickly. Capybaras graze with heads lifting often. Deer step cautiously from cover. Every movement is measured against risk. At midday, heat builds. Many animals slow down. Shade becomes valuable. Even predators rest, because hunting at the wrong time wastes energy. But the forest does not stop. In the canopy, wasps hunt caterpillars. Ants patrol branches. Spiders repair webs torn by rain or wind. Below ground, fungi continue decomposing wood, releasing nutrients, feeding roots, and keeping growth possible. In late afternoon, light softens. Activity returns. Primates travel to feeding trees. Birds increase calling. The forest prepares for the shift into night. Then dusk arrives, and the Amazon changes its language. Frogs begin to call. Nocturnal insects rise. Bats take to the air, sweeping over clearings and rivers, tracking prey with echolocation. Owls begin to move through the canopy. Silent wings, focused hearing, short, decisive strikes. Along the water, caimans drift into position, not chasing, waiting, using darkness as cover. And somewhere on the boundary, the Jaguar begins its patrol again. This cycle repeats, not as a story, but as a system. And in that system, predators are not the center. They are the regulators. They keep the forest from becoming one thing. They keep balance from collapsing into dominance. When you understand that, predation becomes something different. Not cruelty, not spectacle, a necessary pressure that helps shape diversity. Because diversity is built in competition and stabilized by control. That is why apex predators matter. They are part of the architecture of life. If we look closely, the Amazon is always teaching the same lesson. Nature is not organized by what looks dramatic. It is organized by what works. Efficiency, adaptation, timing, and relationships that connect one life to another. When we protect those relationships, the forest keeps solving problems, even under change. When we break them, the system becomes simpler and poorer. So the question is not only what lives here, it is what we choose to let continue. And as you leave this film, remember the feeling of the Amazon's quiet. Not empty quiet, working quiet. The quiet of roots trading nutrients with fungi. The quiet of insects rebuilding the canopy's economy. The quiet of predators deciding when not to strike. That quiet is a sign of a forest that still functions. Before we end, let's be clear about what science looks like here. In the Amazon, research is slow and difficult. Plots must be cut through dense vegetation. Instruments must survive humidity and floods. Boats replace roads. And many sites are reachable only in certain seasons. To estimate carbon, scientists measure tree diameters, identify species, and use allometric equations to estimate biomass. They combine field data with satellite imagery to scale local measurements to regional maps. To study animals, biologists use camera traps on trails, track footprints in mud, record calls, and sometimes fit animals with GPS collars. They analyze movement, home range, and habitat use. In rivers, scientists sample fish communities, measure water chemistry, and track flood cycles over time. They use acoustic monitoring for dolphins. They study food webs using stable isotopes, tracing energy from plants into predators. This is how the Amazon becomes knowable, not by a single expedition, by decades of repeated observation. And those observations have produced practical lessons. Corridors matter. Connected forests support larger, healthier populations. Protected areas matter. They reduce land conversion, especially when enforcement is real. Indigenous land rights matter. They are repeatedly associated with lower deforestation. In many datasets, sustainable fisheries matter. Large fish need time and floodplain access to reproduce. When harvest ignores those cycles, stocks can collapse. Fire prevention matters. In many regions, most fires are human-ignited. Reducing ignition sources during dry periods can prevent runaway burns. And consumer choices can matter, not because one person saves a forest alone, but because markets respond to demand. Products linked to illegal deforestation can lose value when supply chains are monitored. Companies can shift sourcing. Governments can enforce standards. Financial systems can reward protection. None of this is simple, but it is measurable. The Amazon is not saved by speeches. It is saved by structures, laws, rights, enforcement, monitoring, and economic incentives aligned with preservation. In this layer, return to the predators one last time. A jaguar depends on connected cover. A caiman depends on functional wetlands. An anaconda depends on flooded corridors. A dolphin depends on free-flowing water. If we protect the system, we protect the predators. And if predators remain, the system is more likely to stay balanced. That is the true mystery of supreme predators. Their power is real, but their greatest role is invisible. They are the pulse check of the forest. In the Amazon, quiet is never empty. It is information, and the future will depend on whether we learn to listen. And in every scene, remember this: the Amazon is not background. It is the main character. If this film gave you a new way to see the Amazon, share the moment that stayed with you, Was it the Jaguar reading the riverbank? The Caiman turning stillness into power? The Anaconda waiting inside the flooded maze? Or the hunters of the night moving without a sound? Write it in the comments. And if you want more calm, cinematic wildlife stories built on what we can observe, measure, and learn, subscribe. In the Amazon, quiet is never empty.